Learning about Gemara, we're up to the Samach Ches Amud Aleph, and the question the Gemara had was: you have a husband and you have a father who jointly annul the Nedarim of his arusa, of his fiance, and the question is: does each one cancel half of the neder, or does each one cancel half of the whole? And we said the nafkamina between these two ways are what happens. So she made a neder, she will not eat these two olives. These two olives are forbidden to me. Then the husband came along and annulled his part of the neder, and then she went ahead and ate both of them. So if we learn that each one has 50%, so the husband basically permitted one of the olives to be eaten, but the other olives were forbidden on account of her father. So then she will receive lashes. But if you learn that the husband came in and he basically weakened the entire neder because he has 50% of the entire neder, then you brought it down one level. There's no longer lashes there. You just committed an issue. That's the question. So Gemara will give us 5 different cases where we use expression as serekna, which means that if one of them falls out, does then move on to the other one completely 100%, or what happens? For example, if there is a neder, and then there's a father and a husband alive at the same time, then one of them dies, does the other one now take total charge, and they can cancel the neder or not? So we have 5 different scenarios, but generally as a rule, the father is more powerful than the husband in a way, from a certain vantage point, because he was the sole person who had control till now. The husband is the new one. He's the newbie, and he came and joined in, as we'll see. One thing is the Gemara premise clearly is that both of them 50% have power. The question is, how do we translate that power? The Achreim tried to understand who said have any power. A little bit like the Ran we discussed yesterday, that maybe you did nothing until the second person comes in and moves in. Who said you cancel 50%? Who said you cancel 100%? You did nothing, because it's too. You did nothing because the other person hasn't yet done their annulment. And yet the Gemara's premise is no. They definitely effective, very effective. The question is, was it vertical or horizontal? That's basically the Gemara's question. But the Gemara says, Toshma, come, I will explain it to you from a Gemara, from a Brisa that it sort of explains some of the Mishnah we're going to learn later on. And the Brisa is going to give us 5 different scenarios. 3 of them where the husband died, and 2 of them where the father died, and a number of them where the father and the husband died, and what happens as a result. And also we're going to make a distinction as to whether the other person, before they died, and they went ahead and they annulled the neder, for example, was the other party aware of it or not? Was the other party aware of it or not? Says the Gemara, Toshma, come in here. Case number 1. When do we say Meis Habal? When do we say that if the husband died, when do we say that if the husband died, then the entire control transfers to the father and he can unilaterally annul that neder? Bisman, in a case where either the husband did not hear of it at all before he died. So the husband was never involved in this neder in the first place. Why wasn't he involved? The 3 possibilities why he wasn't involved. One is because he died before he heard about it. Or Sheshama, this is our version, the Ran has a different version there, but Sheshama, he heard Vishasak. He heard and he was quiet, knew. We learned before that's considered tacit confirmation. Or Sheshama Hafer. Or go further. He heard and he annulled, but a mez by b'yayim. He died that day. No, the Torah says that you have to wait, he has all day till the nighttime, till nightfall, to make a determination. Over here, he died on that very day, and if he dies on that very day, his silence disappears, evaporates, because he didn't make it till nightfall. So therefore, it's as if he wasn't silent. And if he was Mayfair, the Ran says, it didn't have to die that day. Even if he died the next day, the fact is what he did was he was Mayfair. So his part was taken care of. So what happens now? Since because it seems more than that. It seems in the Torah that the koyach does not is not chal until the nightfall, and it's continued nightfall, and therefore because nightfall never happened, it disappeared whatever he did. In other words, the husband was never involved in this neder, or he actually was made for it. Therefore, in that case, what happens? So there's no husband. So there's no husband before the end of the day. So therefore, the father takes over, assumes control. Abel, in this very scenario, if the husband heard, but he didn't just give a tacit acknowledgement, he actually stood there and he fulfilled it. Then, since he was Mekayim it, you don't need nightfall anymore. He did a proactive thing. If he was quiet, we don't know if he'll be quiet till the end of the day, and therefore it doesn't take effect until nightfall. If he's nightfall and he's still quiet, that tells us that he agrees with this neder. But if he verbally says, I confirm this neder, or he was quiet and he heard, didn't say anything, he heard and he was quiet, but he lived on to the next day, went through nightfall. So therefore he had a connection to the neder, but he confirmed it. And Yochel Hofer. And there's nothing to transfer to the father can no longer cancel because the husband's input was valid, and basically he confirmed the neder, and the father cannot do it unilaterally. Okay, so case number one is when do we say that Nisreikin Lahab, when do you say that it completely gets, Nisreikin means that you empty out contents of a package, you put into another one. When do we say that it completely shifts over, transfers to the father, is if the husband is no longer in existence, disappeared. He died before the day was over, so he never even heard about it, or if he heard about it, he didn't do anything about it. So therefore, it's if he does non-existence, only a father. That's case number one. Case number two. The father heard. Shamavia, the father heard. V'hafala, the father heard, and he canceled the neder. But he speak the husband did not get involved until the father died. So you might think, here's now a chiddush. You might think, just like we used before, since the husband did not hear about it till the father died, which means that the husband is now, it's not like the husband was involved together with the father. The husband's not involved together with the father. The husband steps in right now and there's no father anymore. So maybe the husband has complete control. You would think that's it. Now the husband can go ahead and cancel the neder. We learned Mesa of it does not transfer to the husband at all. It does not transfer to the husband because the husband and the father didn't overlap. The husband died, and the father died, and the husband cannot take full control. Now, okay, the husband was never given full control. The father once upon a time was, so therefore the father has more control, but the husband never was given full control. But in the first case, where the father was made for it, so the father took care of his end of the neder. All you have left now is the segment that the husband has to deal with, and the husband's around, he'll deal with it. Well, why does it say here it does not move to the husband? The reason is because when the father died, his hafara dies with him. The hafara disappears. And because the hafara disappears, now 100% of the neder has been reactivated. It's no longer 50% that disappeared. 100% of the neder has been reactivated, and the husband does not have the capacity to cancel 100% of the neder while they're merely engaged. Okay, that's case number two. Case number three. Shama Bailam, the husband heard, the husband heard, and he annulled it. So now we're back to the husband. He heard, he annulled it. He speak of in this case, the father did not hear about it until the husband died. So there's no overlap between the father and the husband. In the first case, it could very well be the father was still alive when the husband was there, and therefore the father steps in, takes over from the husband because they were connected, and the husband sort of left everything for the father. Here, when the father came on the scene, the husband is gone. They didn't hear about it at the same time. So we would have thought that in this case, maybe because there was no overlap at all, so whatever the husband's obligation were cannot transfer to the father. No. Even in this case, since there's no husband anymore, 100% of those neder now is activated, and the father steps in. I told you last time, there's a machlekes rishonim when we say the father and the husband, do they both have to hear it on the same day? What happens if father hears it? In other words, father heard in the morning, let's say then he died, and the husband heard in the afternoon, so the same day. So therefore, they're both related to the same neder. But if the father hears it one day and the husband hears it a week later, then it's too late. It doesn't work because even though as soon as he hears about it, let's say he cancels it, but it was not in the same 24-hour period or the same day period as the father, or not. Each one is their own thing. Whenever you hear about it, you have b'yom shama. You have that particular day to cancel it, and it doesn't matter. Okay, case number 4. Shama Baila, the husband heard about it, the hafala, and he did his thing. And the husband did not hear about it until the husband. That's right. The father did not hear about it until the father died. So the father never was involved in this case, and the husband canceled it, and now the husband is still left alive. The question is, so now can the husband step into the father's shoes? His share he took care of already. That stays intact. He canceled 50% of the neder, and now the father, can he step into the father's? He said, can he step into the father's shoes and do that? And the thing is. So you would think that since the father was never around, the father never had any control over it. So therefore, it's not like the husband's stepping in the father's shoes, which he can't do. But maybe the husband can step in his own shoes and do it twice. And the thing is he can't. The husband does not have the capacity to do it on his own. And this is the case. You're asking the husband to do 100% on his own. True, 50% is still intact. He cannot be made for and then made for. He cannot do 100%. The Torah never gave the husband that capacity. Because it says, V'im, that the father, you draw it down, you take the father along, and also the Isha, the husband. But on his own, he can't. Case number 5. What in the world does any of this have to do with our question before? That it's 50% vertically or horizontally. It's this following case now. What happens is Shamavia, the father heard, Vihafla. So the father did his thing. But he speak Habal Lishmai, the husband did not hear at Shemes until the husband died. So the husband was never involved. In this case here, the father, as soon as he heard about the neder, he canceled the neder. The husband never heard about it, and he died. So now, as if there's no husband. So the father is now 100%. So in this case, the father can go in and take over and do a second hafara. So the father did one hafara on his own accord for his on representing himself, and then the husband died before he didn't hear about it, so he's not involved because the husband heard about it before. He's not involved at all, and the father steps in. Okay, Rav Nosson said, no, not so posh. Hey. And the chiddush in this one here is previously the father's hafara was while the husband was still alive, so maybe the hafara did not take effect until because the husband was alive, he has to do something as well, and the husband heard about it. Here the husband did not hear about it. So when the father did the hafara, he did exactly what he's supposed to do, and the husband is not related to this hafara at all. So the hafara was 100% good, and now the husband's gone. So you would think in that case the father could just do another hafara and done. And Bishama says, yes, he can. Comes along Hill and says, no. Bishama says,
the original either only affected 50.
Yeah, exactly. The original 50. Now he doesn't have 50 because that 50 doesn't disappear. The father was alive. He's still alive. He did 50. Doesn't disappear. So it's 50 plus 50. So and Hill says no. One person cannot do 2 hafaras. If there was a husband involved in the first place and there's 100% of the neder intact, the father comes in, he does 100% hafara. But what he did happen was he did a 50% hafara because the husband was still alive, and now the husband died. You want him to do another hafara, and Hill says he can't do 2 hafaras. What's the crux of their argument? So we're going to explain that the crux of the argument is exactly the very question we had before. According to Beishamai, it's 50 down the line. So the husband's not repeating the hafara. The first hafara was the 50% that he took care of, but there's still 50% outstanding that is still a very strong neder. So he comes in now and does the other one. He's not doubling up. It's another one. Of the Beis Hillel, according to Beis Hillel, mikvah kolish, and Beis Hillel says no, that the each one does the entire neder but weakens it, and therefore, because he weakened the entire neder by doing his 50% the father, what's left for the husband to do is to get rid of the balance, which is a weak neder, and a weak neder is not transferable, and therefore the husband's share cannot transfer back to the father. The husband already had the shaykhs to it, and therefore you cannot. So what do we see from here? That this very question that we had before, whether it's vertically cut or whether horizontally cut, is a machlekes b'shama Beis Hillel.